Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra O'Connor, and this is Healthy Gaming. The American Center and the US Consulate General is glad to present this edition. Today, we are going to talk about the balance in your life needed for healthy gaming and the balance that you need also for electronic devices. These times, we have been using a lot of technology because of the circumstances. Uh, During COVID has been a very good resource to cope with stress and in some cases isolation because of COVID-19 pandemic. But we can't forget to find a way to balance what we do with our technological devices, what we do when we are gaming, and our personal lives or our professional life too. So today we have a special guest. Don't miss it. We already know that video games helps not only the gaming industry, helps also to other industries. Mainly, I think the educational one. Now, more and more entities and companies and schools are using the technology of gaming for teaching. We know that improves your visual acuity and attention, scientific reasoning, language learning, literacy, problem-solving skills. It has many good things, but we need to have a good approach to this use of technology. So for our parents, I think there are steps to deal with this use of technology, use of gaming, video games and gaming devices. And I think the pillars of this are the four concepts that we have in the screen: relationship, context, prioritize, and plan. So we have to build our relationships with our daughters and sons to understand the world that they live in. They have a different approach to technology than us. So we have to relate with them and live what they try to understand what they live, right? So empathetic relationship centered communication will be the right choice for us as parents. Now, we have to understand also the context. We have a different context right now. They are growing up in a different environment than us. So we have to let them into using those tools to explore the full potential that they have and resource themselves in there. Of course, with the frame of us as parents. Then we have prioritize. I think that any human interaction should be prioritized over any digital. So this is again something that we shouldn't fight, right? We should find a way to support them and understand their virtual worlds and their friends in that instance. And lastly, but not less important, plan. And that means we have to give them a schedule. Like everything in our lives, we don't let them, I don't know, play football all day. They have to study, they have to eat, they have to sleep. So like any other activity, it demands some control. So balance, again, is the key word. Physical health, emotional stability, social growth, real world outcomes, and mental health. For that, today we have a special guest, which is Dr. Faye Frederick. She is an American psychologist. Her professional interest centers around community and connection. She uses her knowledge of interpersonal, organizational, and cultural political system to assist individuals, groups, and agencies in achieving their highest potential and to reconnect their mission through intentional interactions and increased understanding of self and others. Sounds a little complicated. I said it. Here she is to explain us more about this. Dr. Faye, welcome.
Hey there.
I still don't see you. You have to turn on your camera.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
Sandra. Yeah, doing okay.
Well, it sounds a little complicated, all this, but I'll let you to explain us more a little about you and more a little about balance, healthy gaming, parents, and
Yeah, awesome. I will break it down. Don't worry about it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Xin chào các bạn. Tên của tôi là Dr. Faye. Tôi là bác sĩ family Mỹ. I'm going to be presenting in English today because I am positive that your English is much better than my Vietnamese. So I am going to share my screen with you right now. Let me just get that going. Boom. So this is going to be my presentation. Today, we're going to chat a little bit about healthy e-gaming. So I know there's a lot of concern about e-gaming being bad for adults, for kids. And well, can I answer that question? Ooh, yeah, it's really hard. So I want to point out that for gaming, we need to look at two sides. You know, is your gaming causing problems for you? This is always what in my job we are concerned about. Is the activity causing problems in your family? Are you spending less time with your loved ones? Are you falling behind on work assignments or household chores? Have people maybe complained either at home or in the office that you are gaming too much or that you aren't getting things done? If you're preoccupied by thoughts to game or even do any activity and it's keeping you from other important things in your life, or if you are gaming when you should be doing something else, maybe gaming could be causing some problems for you. However, as Sandra pointed out, there's a lot of positive effects of gaming too. It provides cognitive stimulation, opportunities to socialize, which is especially helpful in times of a pandemic when we're not allowed to leave our homes. And it can reduce anxiety and stress. So when people ask, is e-gaming bad? My answer is, it depends. And it's really complicated. But I think when we ask the question, is the question, is e-gaming bad? It is the wrong question. We should be saying, why are you gaming? This is a much better question to ask, and I'm going to tell you why that is. So here we have Hull's drive reduction theory, and this is basically just about how humans work, okay? So in homeostasis, we're feeling good. Nothing needs to happen. We are just chilling. Now, over time, eventually we have some feelings, right? This lady here is hungry. She wants a pretzel. Maybe that hunger, the feeling of hunger is coming from her stomach, but our drives can also come from our head, our thoughts, or maybe our heart, what we want, right? So this drive reduction theory, all it says is that when we have a feeling, whether it's in our stomach, our head, or our heart, we are then motivated to fulfill that need. So that's basically how humans work, but it's really important for us to determine where the motivation or the drive is centered, whether it is our stomach, our head, or our heart. So in thinking about why we game, here are some possible reasons for why we game. Because it's fun. Okay, that would be a need for entertainment. That's the need we're trying to fill there. Well, I'm really bored, or maybe I don't want to think about the pandemic anymore. I'm just burned out. It's more active than a book or TV. That's for stress management. That's the need we're trying to fill, if that's why we're gaming. It makes me feel like I did something productive. There's actually some very interesting research that says our sense of accomplishment is really met in video games, especially quest-oriented video games. When we can check those boxes in video games, then we're able to get that same satisfaction that we get from checking our real life to-do list without having to do the difficult things like going to the grocery store or calling the bank. So that sense of accomplishment can be really important for folks. And for some lucky people, gaming is their job. Maybe some people need to game in order to make money to support themselves or their families. So there's a lot of reasons why people game, and it's important for us to look at why we're gaming and to think about if there are maybe other reasons or other ways we can fulfill these needs. There's other ways to be entertained, and there's certainly other ways to manage our stress other than gaming. It's not the only thing that's possible in those areas. So no matter why you're gaming in this day and age, we are also doing a lot, like as Sandra said, we are on technology a lot for our work, but also for fun. So regardless of why you're gaming, in addition to finding more ways of meeting your needs, I think it's really important for us to create boundaries between our work life and our home life. So these are just some ways you can create some boundaries if you find that gaming or technology is taking over your life. We can create boundaries with our time. It may seem a little bit silly, but we can even really schedule out, put it in our calendars. This is when I'm working. This is when I'm at home. This is when I'm off. This is my personal time. This is time that's just for me. And those boundaries are really important there. We can set space boundaries. If it's possible, maybe we need to work in a different space. Sometimes space can be under, it's a little bit tight in the home. But even if we change our seat at the table, we're signaling to our brain, okay, I'm doing something different now. I was in work mode, now I'm in play mode. Routine is also another way we can create boundaries. We're used to a commute on our way to work, something that says, okay, now I'm leaving home and I'm going to work, or now I'm leaving work and it's time to go home. So we can also insert fake commutes, if you will. We can take a walk around the block when it's possible, or maybe even just down to the lobby of our building and come back up. We can separate out the things we use. We have work items and home items. It may be helpful for some people, if you're working, put on your work clothes. All of these things are signals to your brain of what you're doing. So I think probably the most important thing, something that I care about a lot, is values. So in thinking about why you game or how to set boundaries, it's also vital that we just reflect on what's important to us. It's really important to ask, why do I game? How important is it to me? And what else is important to me? Now, before the pandemic, we were being pulled in dozens of directions, physical directions, with social activities, work events, sporting events. This pandemic has given us a lot of time back. So I don't know if any of you guys know the old phrase, if you don't stand for something, you can fall for anything. Well, in this case, that might be your Xbox. And that's why it's important to know what is important to you. So understanding our values helps us understand ourselves, choices, our motivations, our drives. When we understand our values, we can communicate better with others. We can better make decisions that line us up with what's important to us, and even help us find a sense of purpose. So I encourage you to reflect on what is most important in your life and spend time in those activities that are aligned with those important ideas. If you're doing that, I can guarantee you that you'll be meeting some of those needs that we talked about earlier, whether that's entertainment, stress management, or even purpose. So those are just a few of the outlining points here. I want to give us plenty of time to chat about these ideas because they're big ideas here. So I will stop sharing my screen now and come back. And I'm back and I am happy to take questions. Sandra, if any of that was unclear, let me know and I can go a little bit further, but I just wanted to give an overview and then have a better conversation about it.
Actually, it's perfect. You just gave us a whole picture of what's going on in our lives right now. I think one of the things that most of the parents battle with is how much time they spend in the screen, in front of a screen. Besides, if it's video games, maybe social media, now they even study in a screen. So they probably spend hours between school, friends, and gaming. So one of our questions is, can you share some screen time tips?
Sure. Well, I think this is complicated, as you said. We are required to be in front of screens right now for a lot of different reasons. So I think the best thing we can do is be very intentional about screen time, right? Like, so if the kids are doing school online, they've got to be in front of that screen. But maybe that means on school days, we reduce the entertainment that's in front of a screen. Whether it's watching videos or video games. However, this means that kids will need another way to get entertainment. So adults might have to be a little bit more intentional about creating activities in the home if we can't go out, right? That are entertaining. So this could be a family game night with board games, or even just physical activity in the home, working out together, sitting around having a conversation, cooking dinner together. It is important to be intentional about how much screen time you're getting. And because of the pull of screens and how much we have to do, we'll have to really plan out how to not be in front of a screen.
One of the things that I've seen people working with kids are charts. Like if you have this amount of activities, you help in the house, you do the chores, on and on and on, you win hours, you win time to play video games or to do social activities on internet, right? So that way they feel that they have that time. My parents are not going to bother me. This time is mine. I earn it. And in some way you have a pretty visual way to control the time of your kid. But when it comes to adults, we don't have parents. What do we do when with us, right? How do we make that line between virtual world and personal world reality?
Yeah, Sandra, you made a great point in your presentation that parents have to be parents. They have to draw the lines for children, right? And that's really important. We need, as children need parents to set those boundaries because they can't do it for themselves. Parents keep their children safe. But you're right. When we get to adulthood, sure, yeah, we're allowed to eat ice cream for dinner if we want, but it doesn't always mean it's good for us. Unfortunately, when we get to adulthood, we have to be our own parents still, just like we make ourselves go to the dentist, and just like we say, well, I can't eat ice cream, but it's gonna hurt my stomach or keep me up all night. We have to say, yeah, sure, I can game, and just, maybe I'm working from home and no one's gonna know if I game, but is gaming this way good for me? Am I really fulfilled? Am I able to take the time that's needed to make sure my relationship with my partner is okay, that my family is okay? Are all of your other needs being met? Are your obligations being met? So we just have to get real with ourselves, be honest with ourselves, and listen to the feedback, right? Like if our family is saying, hey, this is a problem, at least the least we can do is look at it. And it does just take real dedication to make those behavioral changes, but they're for an important reason, right? When we can center our sense of purpose or even our family, we can say, oh, right, I shouldn't be gaming right now because my family's more important and I'm going to go spend time with them. And that's what's going to give us the energy that we need to say, no thanks, I got to put this down for now.
Okay. What do you think about people that can't find that inner voice, giving them limits? Do you think it's video games that causes that them to be hungry to play and play and play, or is
Mm.
something else happening in their lives that video games is just an object? Can be, I don't know, sugar, can be donuts, can be. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. If people can't find the motivation to do something different, it's really probably not video games that are the problem. Just as you said, we can use anything to fill the need, right? Like in the graphic, where the woman wants a pretzel, the graphic doesn't say she's actually hungry, right? Maybe she's bored and she's using the pretzel to fill the boredom. So if you can't find the motivation to stop gaming, if that's causing problems, maybe you need some help finding what that purpose is, finding what's important to you, right? But maybe it's time to try and do some activities around values to figure out what's important to you. You can speak to any kind of helping professional, if it's a psychologist like me, or a therapist, or even a life coach. And all of these people can help you find or rediscover what's important to you. Because if you don't have that right in front of you, yeah, it is going to be really hard to decide, how do I want to meet these needs? Gaming might just default into that place.
We have some comments from the audience. Says my daughter has online lessons and I can't get her to stay far away from the computer. It is really stressful at home with all family members spending double, even triple time on computers before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
When we know we live in the same world, it's difficult even for us adults to find our inner voice or to wait what's a priority in our lives. Like Faye says, Dr. Faye was clear: when we have motivations, we know what to do. We can have a plan, right? We can structure our lives around our motivation. But if we have a problem finding our own motivations, we are going to just be the perfect victim, right? To anything that can attract our attention. Let's see. Parents are busy at work, even work harder with long hours these days. Can you share with us how we should talk and help our children set up a new normal life in order to help them to build necessary competencies for their own?
Yeah, well, I think the thread here is that parents are really concerned, and parents have lived, as you said, a really different life, and have had longer, more time without a pandemic going on. So I think the theme in a few of these questions and comments is really about creating a family culture, right? Finding that motivation within the family. So families that are able to talk about what's important, what values are important to you as a family, whether that's communication or connection or physical health or even social skills, then the family can then talk about that. And the family is able to set priorities. And then parents will actually have the ability to point back to that and say, remember we had that conversation about communication, or we had that conversation around physical health and why it's so important. That's why I'm not allowing you to game anymore tonight, and that's why we as a family are going to do 100 jumping jacks right now, right? So it is hard. It's extra work for parents. Parents, are having to put in a lot more time to be able to have these conversations, to say why you have to do this other thing you wouldn't normally do, because we're in a pandemic, because you can't go outside, you know, I know you would like to go outside, but because you can't, we still have to stay physically active as a family. And that's going to allow you just a little bit more wiggle room and hopefully some buy-in with your kids to get them to do the activities they need to do, not just what they want to do.
Right. Well, at home, we were gamers. My son's father was a gamer. I am a gamer. So actually, we led with example. We will game with him. We will game with our son. So we thought that the best way to regulate something was to participate. And like we participate in other instances of our son, it was for us, it was easier to get involved in video games, but not all parents like video games or have the time to play video games. But still, I think finding some time as parents to sit and ask them why you play this game, why you like this game, and try to learn it and play with your son or daughter, that's going to make a memory. That's going to create a special moment for your son or daughter to remember. So get involved in that. It's not easy, it's hard, we don't have enough time, but it's part of being a parent. Let's see, we are facing with lockdown situation for almost 2 months. My son cannot be allowed to go outside and play any kind of outdoor activities. Well, you just talked, Dr. Faye, about this. He has only online games. I'm afraid that he may not develop his social health, physical health well enough.
Yeah, I definitely know that the kids are really struggling. Kids learn so much at school that's not being taught, right? The social interactions, the rules of engagement with people their own age. So I get it. And this is really hard. And I get the concern. Like I said before, yes, parents they can try to be a little bit more intentional, right? Around correcting, you know, if there's inappropriate social behaviors, correcting that and saying, well, that's not really polite to say, or, you know, whatever it may be. But also, like I said, making that time to prioritize, maybe more family calls. Again, it's screen time, but it's chatting with family, or saying, hey, why don't we set up a play date, like with your friend, where you guys can just chat, you know. We can also use technology to help us connect in those ways, right? Like you know, just like we have phone calls with people back home to connect, we can model that, like you were saying, Sandra, for our kids and say, hey, why don't you just call your friend? Why don't you guys just chat a little bit about what's going on in your life? So there's ways to get some of that social interaction back in with the assistance of technology.
Well, here there's another comment or question, actually. Dr. Faye, can you share your favorite game title and why? Many thanks.
Well, you guys, probably no one watching this has ever heard of this game. It is so silly. So I actually just completed the Spyro trilogy. This is a very old game. It was from my childhood and I wanted to replay it. And it was so hard. So I just spent way too much time playing Spyro. So I wouldn't say, you know, I don't know, will I ever play it again? Maybe in another 20 years. But yeah, it's been the game that I've been spending the most time on these days.
Okay, let's have another comment. Sometimes I don't want my kids take online lessons, but with the schools off, all things go online. It's difficult to know if my daughter is learning or doing something else. I actually saw a meme recently in which the mother is complaining, oh, you again doing whatever, and actually was a teacher in the screen. So
yeah, I think that's unfortunately, parents are having to take up some of the responsibilities of the teachers, and I'm sure all the parents feel that. Usually, we can rely on teachers to make sure the kids are paying attention. However, this is another place where, especially with online learning, especially with younger kids, or maybe kids that are just not super excited or motivated by academics, we do need to keep an eye on them. We need to make sure that their screens are on the classroom experience, that they're not opening multiple tabs or playing on their phone while they're got the teacher up, right? That's family norms that you can set. You know, when you're at school, I want you to pretend like it's really school. There will, you know, if parents need to take the phones away, you know, you're allowed to do that. You can just, like you said, it's important to just be engaged, right? Just like if they were going to school, it's important to ask, like, what did you learn today? Tell me about it. Have your kid teach you the lesson from that day. All of those are good ways to bring in the interaction of school into the home.
Sure. Let's see what else we have around here. Okay. How much time should we spend to be in front of a screen so that we have good health, both mental and physical?
Well,
question for you, doctor.
This isn't my screens particularly is not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is really around like value and purpose and meaning in life, right? So from my perspective, I would say it depends. It's going to be different for every person. Rather than a specific number, we really don't have good guidance on that. Because like if gaming is really fulfilling to you, or maybe if you're seeing your friends online, that screen time might be important. So it's not about how much time you're spending online, but what is that time giving you? So I know it's difficult, like we were saying, but it's really up to each individual person to determine how much screen time is good or helpful for them.
I agree. Also, I would like to make a difference. What type of gaming or what type of screen time you're using? Like food, if it's quality food, is different than junk food. So what content are they accessing? What game they're playing? They're really good games. Maybe we can share with you in the next episode some good links to pages and organizations, nonprofit organizations that has good content when it comes to software. So there's like Gaming for Change, for example. There are a lot of organizations that look to give good content. So I would say quality of content and time spending watching that content is relative, like Doctor says. But if you're a professional, for example, my son is a professional gamer. He has a very tight schedule. It's like, yes, they play like 8 hours a day, sometimes not all the year. Sometimes they have to spend the time working with their team, like strategy or even personal skills, like how they socialize, how they communicate. So for them, that is a profession. Obviously, the amount of time in a screen is going to be higher than any other regular human, right? For me as a gamer, personally, what I try to do is to keep a balance between, if I spend 1 hour playing video games, I usually spend the double doing some physical activity or hanging out with friends. So you juggle, like you play with the things that are important for you. Maybe reading a book 1 hour and half-hour of playing video games, or 1 hour spending with your family and half an hour of interacting in the virtual world. Find your own formula. The formula is going to work because you are the person that knows better your son and daughter. That it's going to work because you know better yourself. So that from my perspective, that's my advice. It's like you put your own rules and try to be fair with yourself. Let's see if we have more questions. Do we have time? We still have some times.
I see
Okay.
one question that came up here. The question was, I'm a parent of a 3-year-old. What is the right age for him to start gaming using a Nintendo Wii or an iPad? So again, this is not my expertise, so I don't know the numbers on this one. The last I saw, I think it's the American Association of Medical Doctors really recommended that children under 2 should get 0 screen time. Which can be really hard if you're trying to balance working from home with a baby. It's very tempting to give screens as a pacifier. I think also in a perfect world, sure, we have enough resources to not be able to do that. So I know that was their guidance for kids under 2, 0 screen time, and kids over 2 really shouldn't be getting more than 2 hours a day. Again, when I read those numbers, the pandemic wasn't here. So I do think that what we were talking about around being mindful about screen time, making sure you're having these other conversations around values, family values, and being really purposeful to make sure you're including activities that are good for especially very young children's sensory motor development, so that they're getting physical play with items in the home. Being able to play with other people, and being able to keep up that physical health with exercise, and just creating good mental health by communicating a lot within the family. All of those things, we just kind of need to add as much in as we can. The more we add in positive things, the more negative things will fall away.
Actually, I read a comment around here. It says, best way to learn English. Actually, it's true. Best way to learn any language, actually. So, video games comes with the setting of language. You can change it. So maybe that's a good way to regulate time in a computer. Turn the game into, I don't know, Italian. Challenge your kid to learn Italian and play that game in a different language. Yeah, you can be resourceful. That's a good tip. That's a good tip. Let's see. I don't know if I'm right or not. I don't know when my kid plays video games and when she learns. I just see her grade and behavior. She is fine with grades and behavior. So I let her play all she wants.
Yeah, I think, when you're the parent, you also have to decide, right? Like, if it sounds like some of the values at play here, some of the priorities are grades and behavior. And if the kid is meeting those things, like meeting your expectations, if the family is okay with it, then I guess it's okay. Then that's the family culture for that activity. Like we were saying, there's no rule about how much kids should be gaming, as long as they're okay, as long as they're, you're monitoring their development and their physical health and social health and mental health seems to be okay. Like you said, I would definitely encourage parents to talk with their kids about it. How are you feeling? I think you're doing okay. Do you think you're doing okay? Having those conversations. But yeah, maybe the kid, some kids are great at being able to say, yeah, I think I'm done for today, right? If you think about pets, right? I used to have a cat who was very good at I could leave food in his bowl all day and he would just eat whenever he was hungry. He was very good at just saying, I'm hungry, so I'm gonna eat, right? Like when he had the food, when he had in his belly need, he would eat. He didn't have any head needs to eat. Well, my current cat, he's got a lot of thoughts that he's hungry. He's not, but he thinks he is. And so we have a very strict schedule and very strict amounts of, we have to monitor that for him, right? So just like some cats can self-monitor, some kids can self-monitor. And if you're lucky enough to have a kid who can self-monitor and is really good at doing those things and moderating their activities, you're lucky. Great, that's awesome. Maybe you don't have to work so hard or pay attention so much and really direct the activities.
Also, maybe part of the work of us parents is to demystify video games or gaming, because if we forbid that activity constantly, we create curiosity, right? Like, why my parents forbid me this? I want it more. So we are kind of creating a circle of negative reinforcement of this attraction to something that is forbidden in the environment. That if we trust them and we give them tools to self-regulate and to learn to self-regulate, someday we are not going to be there for them. They have to learn that for themselves. So you can, I know it's difficult. Kids are kids, teenagers are teenagers, and it's not an easy job, but that's our job, right? To teach them those tools, and it's not going to be with the easiest thing. It always comes with a challenge. Let's see, there's another challenge here. I think it's necessary to have strict rules on screen time, but I can't have that with my daughter. She's 10. How shall I do? What shall I do, actually, right?
Yeah, this is hard. The older kids get, the harder it is to control behaviors. So there's a few things here. I would say, one, it's important to kind of set rules in the home early as possible, so it just becomes the family norm. This is what we do. This is what we don't do. This is and these are the consequences if you break the rules. What I would also say is that parents are still the parents. You have more power than you think. I know the tantrums, especially the tantrums of a 10-year-old, feel very exhausting, but as the parent, you are allowed to take away phones, take away computers, unplug the Wi-Fi. That may mean you're going to experience a tantrum, but tantrums will stop. It's all about teaching. The important thing here is consistency, right? There needs to be a clear rule. There needs to be a warning if they violated the rule. And it needs to be clear what the consequence is going to be. And that has to be the same every time. Children respond to boundaries and the same kind of expectations that are set. If you can consistently set the boundary, they will respond. It may be hard in the beginning, but I promise you they will respond.
Let's see, we have the last question. I think we are on time. Doing Wang says, do you think that gaming a lot can cause mental illness and people behave violently?
Again, I don't know the research on this, but from what I have read, no, it's not video games that are causing, violence. Some of the other concerns that people brought up today are really what's contributing. If children are gaming so much that they're not getting social interaction, they may start to just lose some of those social skills, right? When kids are interacting and playing together, they learn the limits of what's okay. They learn how much pushing and shoving is fun in games and when it crosses a line. When we stop experiencing each other as humans, that's when we can start to see some behaviors cross the line into violence.
Yeah, at least I try to read and constantly search for information about studies about esports. I couldn't find till now any any serious investigation, any serious test, with a good amount of people to have any real scientific conclusion about this. What I think, like Dr. Faye, is all these are just factors, objects in our lives. How we relate with these objects in our life, it's actually in us. So the object is not important. It's why we are constructing this relationship, a negative relationship with something. So if there's mental illness, it's going to show up in every instance in your life, not only if you're gaming. You're going to see it when you interact with other humans. If you're violent, same thing. It's not that video games make you violent. You are violent. Something is triggering that violence in you. So in those cases, if somebody experiments this, I will suggest to visit a professional and to seek for professional guidance, because the object is not the problem. You have to find a solution, and you need a person that guides you through that process, a person that gives you boundaries and gives you tools for you to release that problem from yourself, right?
Yeah, totally,
So,
Sandra. I definitely agree that if there is violence being exhibited, then what's happening is that there's some need not being met, right? And that someone is using extreme measures to meet that need. And so if that person can't find the need, if that family can't find the need, it's totally appropriate to reach out to a mental health professional. People, therapists, whether, we use a lot of different words, counselor, therapist, mental health, psychologist, they all basically mean the same thing. They're not just for people experiencing, psychotic breaks. I help people with all kinds of things. And most of the things I help people with is finding value and purpose. And, people have a goal and they don't know how to reach it. And so people in my field are really just good at helping people reach their goals. And so if there's a behavior that's happening that's unwanted, mental health professionals are great at giving individuals and families tips on how to change that behavior. So it would be totally appropriate to reach out to someone to help to find what need is not being met here, and how can this individual or the family start to meet that need so that that individual doesn't have to use violence to get the need met.
I agree. Well, actually, there were a lot of more questions, but the time's up. Thank you, Dr. Faye, for being here and help us with all these concerns. If you enjoy video games, keep doing it. If you want to learn more about it, there are free organizations, non-profit organizations online that you can look for good content. If you experience negative effects on doing anything in your life, not only in front of a screen, look for a professional. It's not bad. If you feel pain in your teeth, you go to a dentist. Same with mental health. We are living difficult times. We are stressed. So it's normal that these things are challenging ourselves. So seek for help. And I have to say goodbye for now. See you all next episode about healthy gaming. Thank you, Dr. Faye. You want to say something before we leave?
Nope. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching and all the questions. I do encourage you to reach out. Google is your friend. The resources are out there. And thanks so much for having me, Sandra.
Bye-bye.